occurred to me, or I noticed that there were students who were having trouble um, making their 4x4 squares that they're going to be doing their abstract drawings in, just having trouble laying them out. So basically, they don't have to be absolutely perfect. As you can see, they're not 100% perfect, but they are done with a ruler, and they're neat, and they're aligned, and there's equal space, and they're all the same size. So they're 4x4 squares with a 1/2 inch space between. And on this particular size of paper, I'm able to fit kind of 2 across and three down, so I can fit 6 squares comfortably on this paper, and you're going to need 24 squares. So if we lay out 6 squares on one sheet, then we can take some other blank sheets and trace over the top of those. So we really only have to kind of lay these out once, and then we can make more sheets of squares by just tracing over the top of the first one. So I'm going to show you a technique for just laying these out and drawing these squares that is pretty easy. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is we don't have to center this. That's not that important. What's important is that the squares are neat, aligned, and the space is even. Because we can always trim the rest of the sheet out if we wanted to present it or something like that. So I'm just going to, without worrying about centering it on this paper, I'm just going to start with 1 inch in from the edge, and I'm going to make a little tick mark with the pencil, and then I'm going to do that over here too. And then I'm going to draw a line between those marks. And then same thing over here, 1 inch, I'm just marking 1 inch, and then just drawing a line between the 2 marks. Okay, and then we know that we can fit 2 squares on this side and 3 that way. So each square has to be 4 inches wide. So I'm going to start at this corner, and I'm going to measure 4, and then just make a little tick mark, and then we need a 1/2 inch until the next square. So at 4 1/2, I'll make a little mark, and then I'm going to measure 4 again. So I've got 4 inches, 1/2 inch, 4 inches. Now down here at this end of the paper, I'm going to do the same thing. 4 inches from my line, then a 1/2 inch, and then another 4 inches. All right, and now I'm just going to draw some lines, and normally I would do this lightly because I'm going to trace over I'm going to make boxes with my Sharpie marker, but I'm going to do it a little darker than normal so that it shows up on the video. And it doesn't matter if we see some pencil lines, that's not that important. Okay, so now I've got my 2 box widths on this narrow edge. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay out 3 4-inch squares going this long way on the paper. So I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm going to start in this corner, measure 4, then a 1/2, then 4, then a 1/2, and then 4. All right, and then over here on this side, I'm going to do the same thing, basically kind of making a grid layout, sort of. 4, a 1/2, 4, 1/2, and then 4. So now I'm just going to draw lines between my marks here. Let's see. Okay, so now I've got 6 4x4 squares. Now all I need to do is to take my Sharpie and just draw or trace over my pencil lines on all 4 edges of each square. So maybe we'll shift the camera this way, I think. Okay, and one thing I don't want to do is mash the Sharpie tip against the edge of the ruler because it'll smear. So just kind of give it a little bit of a space and then do this. All right, so notice that I'm lifting up the marker where there's a little margin or a little space between the squares. And if you get marker on the ruler, well, you're going to get marker on the ruler, you should be able to clean that off afterward with some paper towel and some rubbing alcohol. That should take it off. All right, and then let's connect them over on this side. So notice how my edges aren't perfect. It doesn't matter. They don't have to be perfect, but they do have to be aligned, they do have to be spaced evenly, and they do have to be square. And they do have to have straight ruled edges. This should not be something that you're doing freehand. All right, so now I have 6 squares. So I need 24 of these. Plus, after that, I'm gonna need 9 more. So instead of going through this whole process of measuring them again, I'm going to create more squares, I'm going to take another sheet, place it on top, and if you have tape, it's not a bad idea to tape this down, but I'm going to just go for it and just make sure that these sheets don't slide. So just make sure your sheets don't slide around. Now, if you have a smaller sheet of paper, you're not going to be able to fit as many squares on it, and that's fine. Maybe you can only fit 4 squares on your sheet. You're just going to end up with more sheets. You'll have more individual sheets of paper to total 24 squares. But the important thing is that they're, again, 4 by 4 inches. They're all square and straight, and that they're spaced equally. Okay, so now I've got my second sheet, so now I've got a total of 12 squares, and I would need to make 2 more sheets like that to make up my 24. And then you'll need 9 more after that for your refined drawing, so then you'll need 2 more sheets after that. But you can create all your squares all at once, and then you'll have them ready to do your drawings inside.